Welcome to Addicted to Truth. In today's topic, we're going to cover African values and men of freedom. We are at a point where we as a people start doubting ourselves, the way we live our lives and the way we treat one another and the way we treat ourselves. This is a platform for us to have an honest conversation. And after this, it should be easy for us discussing what the underlying issues are that have led us to who we are. There are three things that we need for us to move forward as a society. Number one, we need some kind of control. You need to control some things in your life because we live in a very ever-shifting terrain. We live in a quicksand kind of environment. We can't control our economy. We can't control the weather. We can't control our relationships. There are some things that we need to have some kind of control of. We have to find that, and as a people, we struggle with that. The second thing that we need here is some kind of a value system. Value simply means something that you value, something that is of supreme importance to you. And of course, the third one we need is a community. Without a community, it becomes very hard for you to have values. And without values, it becomes very hard for you to have a community. So first thing that we need, some kind of control. Second thing that we need is values. And third thing that we need is a community. All these three things will exactly change where we are. Let us look at the context of where we are as a people. At this point, looking and living in the South African terrain, poverty is at the worst peak that it's ever been. Disease is killing us like it's never happened before. Cancer has become one of the biggest causes of death in African communities. Diabetes. These are not things that other people struggle with. We struggle with this a lot. Religion. And this is purely enshrined in what our value system is. And how do this change or focus on what our state of mind for us to live the way we are? So let's focus on defining what our values are, building a strong community, and how does that bring about our freedom. Let's start with values. Values determine everything. So which means that whoever defines your values defines and controls your life. If you look at the things that are important to us, the things that we value are more external and things of very shallow importance. What are the things that we value as black people, and especially as black men? Number one is labels. We're the biggest wearer of labels in the world. Go to Santon City, you'll find a long queue outside Louis Vuitton, Versace, and any of those. Not black women, but black men. Why do we wear labels? Why is it that it's always easy for men to wear labels than any other men? Wearing labels is always a lack of identity. To wear a label is wearing somebody else because you don't know who you were, so that you want to identify with somebody that is more successful. You'll never find women wearing Michael Jordan. You don't find women wearing Tiger Woods. You don't find women wearing other famous people's names on their back. This is something that in most cases you'll always find with men. And why does it happen like that? Because deep inside, when we were created as men, by God, we know that you were created to be great. Not perfect, but to be great. And if you do not live up to your greatness, because God expects you to live up to your greatness, you end up trying to live up your greatness through other people, and that becomes very valuable to you, spending money that you don't have. The other big labels for us is big cars, BMWs, Mercedes-Benz. Do a very easy analysis by your own. Go to any traffic lights and count the first 20 cars, the most expensive big cars, and see who's driving those cars. And in most cases, it would always be us black men. But we're not the biggest earners in the economy. We're not the biggest entrepreneurs in the economy. We don't own means of production. So how are we being able to afford to drive these cars? Because we've lost our identity, because somebody's told us Somebody is defined that for you to be valuable, you have to drive a specific kind of car. For you to be important, you have to wear a certain specific label. For you to be recognizable, you have to make calls on a certain iPhone. Now, all those things, whoever defines those owns you. Who owns you? Mr. iPhone. Who owns you? Mr. BMW. Who owns you? Mr. Mercedes. Now let's look at this from a totally different point of view. Mercedes, BMW, Louis Vuitton, Versace, those are somebody's second names. That's somebody's surname. Now the question I'm asking you here is, are you investing in your surname or somebody else's surname? Because every single time that you wear that value, you are breaking your own surname. Money is going in rather than you building your surname. So we have to start focusing on building our surname. Now, to build our surnames means we're not going to be spending our hard-earned, scarce dollar or rand on other people for them to make us feel better. So let's define our own values rather than letting other people define what our values are. And your value cannot be external. Your value is an intrinsic value. There is nobody that can put your value together. It's only you. I can tell you how beautiful you are, how handsome you are. But if the value of yourself is this much, then you'll have a very low self-esteem of who you are. The second thing is control. Most of us don't control anything. We are 80% of the economy, but the economy is owned by 3, maybe 10 families. So we know as men, God said, if you go to the scriptures, and let's create man, and let's give them dominion. Dominion is reign, is authority, power, over, but not over other people, over your own life. You cannot dominate if you cannot feed yourself. You cannot dominate if you cannot employ your own people. You cannot dominate if you don't have the means to live where you want to willingly live. You cannot dominate if you cannot take your kids to the best schools that you know you're preparing them for the future. Now, we as men, we already feel dominated by this environment. Now, since we don't control those things, it brings us back to the definition of value, where we start trying to dominate ourselves by forcing other people to see us through the lens of marketers. So if I see you in a BMW, straight away you automatically expect me to put you in a specific box. If I see you wearing Louis Vuitton, you expect me to elevate your status, but I don't see what you're wearing. When you open your mouth, I can really exactly tell how low you think of yourself in terms of low esteem. So what can you control? The first thing that you can control is what you put in here. The second thing that you can control is what you put in here. The third thing that you can control is the environment, the people that you deal with. How do you control your mindset? Knowledge. God is knowledge. You cannot know in this world until knowledge comes from the root word know. So we have to focus on feeding our mind with the best possible food as possible. In the environment that we live in, with such a technological advancement and the rate at which technology is advancing due to COVID-19, most black men will be out of a job. And based on statistics, 25% black people will lose their jobs because they're going to be traded in for technology. It's one of those most dangerous times for you to be living as a black person, and especially as a black man, if you've not invested in your knowledge. So you have to feed your knowledge. The second thing that you need to have control of course, is your health. And your health is determined by movement. Your health is determined by what you feed your mind, and your health is determined by what you put in your mouth. How often do you just eat without thinking about what you're putting in your mouth? Because every morsel of bread that you put in your mouth and every little sip of liquid that you put in your mouth, you're either feeding disease or fighting disease. There's no two ways about that. And if you look at us as a people, we don't really value what we eat. We eat whatever we can. We're still the only people in the world that are still eating what used to be fed to us while we were working on the farms. We're still the only people that cherish chicken feet. We're still the same people that cherish cow hooves. Those are not traditions. These were things that were fed to farm workers during apartheid. They were fed to farm workers during slavery, because the slave master or the farmer or the owner of the slave did not want wastage. So after they've eaten all the steak, after they've eaten everything from pork, whatever was left as leftovers, they didn't want to waste it. They fed it to the slaves. And now in this age and era where most of us know better that one of the worst kind of meat a human being can feed himself is pork, we still take our hard-earned money, still go to the supermarket, and the people around us have seen how we haven't invested in our own mind. They still package these leftovers as food, and we take our own hard-earned cash and we still buy it. We are killing ourselves. We have to start valuing ourselves as a people before other people can value us. You have nothing when you don't have your health. You can never be the best version of yourself until that happens. The third thing that we need to do here is we need to build a sense of community. The average 40-plus black man does not have 5 friends that he can easily name when you ask them, who are your band of brothers? The young boys have a lot of friends, but most black men 40 plus do not have 5 men they can call on as a band of brothers. You're only as good as the company that you keep. The people that you hang out with, what is their most influence you? Is it positive or negative? Are these people that you only meet weekends or evenings to watch the Premier League? Are these people that you meet only to go drink John Walker? Are these the people that you only meet to go talk about other people at Shisanyama? Are these people that you only meet to go chase chicks? What are the people that you're hanging out with making you do? Who are they turning you into? Are they turning you into somebody that you can be proud of if you had to get an out-of-body experience? Are they making you do things that every Monday morning you regret? These are things that we have to take control. Now, our value system automatically plays into the hands of those people that want to control you. And this brings us to what we call our mind of freedom. Independence means nothing without mind of freedom. Now, we will go through the 3 stages that we've gone through in South Africa and where most black men are stuck. The first one during apartheid was where you had to be put in a specific location where you can live, where you can exist, and where you can cohabit with the people that look like you. And every single time that you had to move from that kind of environment, you had to carry the dome pass. Now, that defined for you what freedom is. Your freedom at that point was simply migration, to move from the township and be able to go live with the people that have put you in that area. So that was a very limited physical kind of freedom or independence that was specifically defined for you. And that is very easy to fight for it. And it was easy at that point to rally so many black people together to fight against that kind of oppression. And that's why you find in the 70s and all those, thinking of the 1976 Soweto uprising, it was easy to bring a lot of people to come fight that. Now, the minute that was overcome, the definition of freedom completely changed. So it came from migration straight away to participation. It was, I want to be able to live in the suburbs. I want to be able to drive a car like my boss does. I want to be able to eat in the same restaurants. I want to be able to go on the beach. I want to be able to go on the same toilet, sit on the same toilet like my boss. I want to be able to go to a place where they don't say whites only or blacks only. So it completely changed the definition of freedom. So all of a sudden it was also easy because it was a physical structure, something that people were fighting and they could see moving towards. And it was easy for most black people to get together and fight for a specific purpose. Now remember, people cannot be held together by a common interest. People can only be held together by a common purpose. And that was why it was easier, Tata Madiba and all those kind of people, to bring people together. After that was given, and your master said it's okay, you can move into the suburbs, you can drive a BMW, you can trade working on the farm from the hot sun and the farm and bring you into the plantation of the corporate office in Santon under the air conditioning. But at that point, the school still feel that something is not right. How can I be free and still feel like that? But at that point, it was very hard for you now to convince other people, because some people will tell you, come on, you've got it good, man. Look at you. You live in a suburb. Your kids go to Red Hill. Now you drive a BMW. What is it you're complaining about? But those that were dissatisfied with that kind of freedom, they started fighting for a third freedom. And this is integration, where all of a sudden you say, boss, I want to be able to sleep with your woman. Boss, I want to be able to marry your woman. Boss, I want to be able to have my kids go to schools with your kids. Boss, I want to be able to sleep in the same hotel like you. And you know what? The system changed, because this is a shifting kind of freedom that is illusionary, that is metaphysical, that has got nothing. So all of a sudden, we all moved into the town. We all moved from the township, and most of us live in the suburb. But deep inside, we still feel nothing is changed. So how do you become free? Freedom is not for somebody to give. Freedom cannot be achieved by consumption. Freedom can only come from production. We as men, and especially as black people, we have to have a shift in our mindset, because as much as we were allowed to move from the farms and come work in the factories and come work in the offices, where we traded our gumboots, our overalls, and all of a sudden we traded for the Louis Vuitton suits and briefcases, the kind of freedom shifted from physical to metaphysical. The chains were never taken off our mind. Our minds are still in chain. And nobody has a key to that apart from yourself. You have to liberate yourself. And this platform is purely about us talking about the metaphysical ways of us being free, rather than us going on the streets and toy-toying. We have to think long term. We should not be this kind of people that respond to the physical pain that we have now, forgetting that we should not sacrifice long-term gains for short-term solution. We shouldn't be driving this car at the expense of leaving our kids worse than they are, irrespective of how much you earned, irrespective of how big a position you have in your company. Always remember, my brother, your kids and your family can never inherit your job. We have to change that mindset and stop taking our kids to school, patting them on the back and telling them to study hard so that they can go work for other people. We have to take the risk like everybody else. We know that we're getting into the starting block too late, that most people have already gone 1,000 miles. They've finished this race, and most of us are not even in the starting block. But we have to start somewhere. Even if we have to plan for the next 500 years, for the next 1,000 years, we have to understand that we did not inherit this country from our fathers. We are borrowing it from our youth. Are we going to give them a better world than the one that our fathers did? Look at yourself and answer me that question. Hope to see you soon. Let's get this discussion as men. Let's do this. But as I always say, don't raise your voice. Raise the quality of your discussion. I'm not going to respond to you if you come in rude, but I will respond to a good quality conversation. Catch you later.